If you've tried to book a vacation recently, you've noticed that hotels, the prices are pretty outrageous depending on where you're going, because just about anywhere you're going to pay more. But maybe you should be looking at Airbnb. Let's bring in Melody Hahm along with the CEO of Airbnb, the co-founder and CEO Brian Chesky. Melody?
Yeah, thanks, Adam and Brian. Really appreciate you joining us as always. Fresh news off the bat yesterday, the biggest product overhaul in your history as a company, about 103 new updates and upgrades to the app and to the system in general, making it easier for both hosts and guests to be on the platform. Tell me what the response has been so far. You know, it's been over 24 hours. What would you say is the biggest piece that seems to be really exciting both the guests and the hosts on your platform?
I think from a guest perspective, the thing that people seem really interested in is the fact that now, you can come to Airbnb and you don't even need to have dates in mind of when you're traveling. And you can come to Airbnb, you don't even need a destination in mind. You could come to Airbnb open-minded about where and when you travel. We can give you ideas with this new feature we called I'm Flexible, where you can say, I'm looking to travel for a weekend, a week, or a month, anytime this summer. And starting June 30th, you'll be able to say, I want to stay in a treehouse anywhere, or in a farm, or near the beach. And so that's probably the biggest thing on the guest side. On the host side, I think what we're really hearing is that, wow, I didn't realize I could become a host in 10 minutes. It's really easy. And that once you become a host, the average active listing that we have on our platform, 50% of them got a booking within 4 days. So those are the two things I would say. On the guest side, you can be flexible about where and when you travel, and we can solve that. On the host side, if you want to become a host, it's much easier. And I think the thing that a lot of people are surprised to learn is that host, can get a booking within, 4 days. They can actually make enough money. They'll make almost a significant amount more than a stimulus check they would have gotten last year on an asset they already have that they're often, not fully utilizing.
But Brian, I wanted to ask you something that impacts your business, which is, I think it's coming out of North Carolina today. Some cities are trying to stifle the kind of business model that you have to protect the existing hotels. What happens to you and Airbnb if they succeed?
Well, this is we're in 100,000 cities and communities all over the world. We have agreements with 1,000 jurisdictions. We've collected $3.4 billion of hotel occupancy tax. So we actually have agreements with most cities anyway. In fact, we did a partnership with the state of North Carolina's Department of Destination Marketing Organization. I guess what I would say is the power of the Airbnb platform is that I think guests are pretty open-minded now about where they travel. And so, they're going to go where they can travel on Airbnb.
Brian, have you seen a shift in spending trends? You're talking about the fact that people are a little bit more open-minded to maybe vacations that they wouldn't have taken pre-pandemic. But what about spending trends? We talk about the fact that people are spending more on retail right now, spending more on restaurants. Are they spending more when they travel too?
Significantly more. And we shared this in our last earnings. They're spending, 20, sometimes 25, 30% more per night on Airbnb. Now, part of this is a mix shift. What's happening is U.S. is recovering faster and sooner than Latin America and Asia, and the home values are higher in the United States. The other reason why, though, is that people are starting to rent whole homes on Airbnb even more than before, and they're renting bigger homes because they want to go with their family and their friends. So we think this is a semi-permanent trend, but I do think, as urban recovers and as Asia and Latin America recover, it will come down a bit. But generally speaking, we're seeing the trend increase. And maybe the only other thing I just say is, I think, and this is a little bit anecdotal, I think that what people desire today to consume are not things as much as experiences, and especially experiences with other people. And I think travel is probably the ultimate experience you could have with somebody.
And Brian, of course, that experience thesis was well in play, right? Even prior to the pandemic, I think maybe it's been solidified as people have been super deprived during this time.
Totally.
I want to touch upon the housing affordability question at play, right? When you talk about pointing demand to supply and the way that these new features can facilitate that, just looking even at today's Case-Shiller Index, right? Home prices up 13.3% for the month of March. That's the biggest gain since December of 2013. When you think about the overall picture and how Airbnb plays into this equation, do you think it's sustainable, right, for millennials to be spending a month at an Airbnb and never really figuring out how to buy a home. I'm curious, from a data basis, what you're seeing and the kinds of trends that you're seeing.
It is absolutely sustainable. I mean, I think that a couple things are true. Number one, 2 years ago, 14% of our room nights booked were for stays of longer than 28 days. Now that's 24%. I don't think this is a temporary phenomenon. I think we're now living in a world where people are more flexible. Flexible meaning they don't have to go back to work Monday through Friday in an office, and the office isn't always in the same city. They can work from home. In a world where we can work from home is a world where we can work from anywhere. And increasingly, more and more people are going to choose to go a month here, a month there. Now, if you ask, is it economically sustainable? It's certainly, one way to defer the cost is to actually rent the place that you have while you're gone. You can always do that to defer the cost, or you can choose just to live on Airbnb. 11% of the stays that are monthly rentals on Airbnb are people living nomadically. So, there are absolutely ways to make this work financially in your favor.
I think another area that's come to light as we have seen this incredible vaccine rollout in countries like the US and across North America is this tension between hosts and guests. And I know Airbnb did publish a blog post last week talking about, being very transparent about fees and trying to manage some misinformation on the platform. I'm specifically referencing a tweet that went viral from journalist Charlie Warzel, where it was specifically a cabin in Western Montana that was listed on Airbnb and only was allowing non-vaccinated visitors. I know that post has been pulled down, that listing is no longer available, but I'm sure this is not a one-off situation, right? I'm curious, Brian, as you are overseeing this amazing platform going forward, how are you going to remedy and mitigate some of these kinds of conflicts?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the secret sauce of what we do every day, right? We have 4 million hosts. We have hundreds of millions of guests that are coming to Airbnb every year looking for places to stay. So the way we manage this to make it a really secure platform where people feel like they can trust the platform, both host and guest, that's what we do. For example, we are willing to take responsibility and take action we have to. In the wake of the January 6th insurrection, we banned all bookings in DC. We blocked all reservations in DC for the week of the inauguration. But what we did is when we canceled every reservation, we still paid out the host. And so I think that we've shown time and again that we're still going to try to make it work for both sides. And I think that that's why people come to Airbnb, because there's a trusted third party that can handle the money, make sure that, we can resolve any disputes if there ever is a problem. And problems are actually quite rare on Airbnb.
Looking ahead, especially in urban locations, for instance, Taste of Chicago is coming up in July. Broadway in New York is going to be opening in September. And you were talking earlier about experiences. Are you seeing in real time people start to advance book? I have friends who said they have to go on the 14th, the night that Broadway opens. They couldn't get tickets. It's already sold out. But do you see this on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing a lot more advanced booking. I think one of the reasons is just people a few months ago weren't doing advanced booking because the world is super uncertain. In a world of uncertainty, people tend to book things last minute. Now that restrictions are lifting, I think people are getting more comfortable advanced booking. That's the number one reason. There might be other reasons, like they are planning to do this trip they've been saving up. So the number one reason, certainty is going up, and that means people are more confident booking long lead times. But the other reason, I just think we have, a year of pent-up demand. Where people were living in their homes. Never in history have people just been so isolated in so many different places. What's been taken away from us? What's been taken away from most people is the ability to travel and connect with other people. So I think this is going to create a huge demand. And the other thing I'll just say is our platform, we now allow you to see where you can get the best deals. So instead of everyone traveling in the same weekend, middle of summer, you can save a bunch of money if you travel off peak. And that would be another reason why I think people are going to book far out in advance.
Brian, I know most of your business here is leisure travel, but let's talk about business travel. And you've said here on Yahoo Finance that you don't see business travel coming back to what it was pre-pandemic. But as more and more people go back to the offices, it is going to come back a bit. I guess, how big of a player do you see Airbnb being in the business travel space? Because I don't think a lot of people associate Airbnb with business travel yet.
Yeah, so I want to be super clear about what I think is going to happen. I think business travel is going to come back. but not like it was. I think business travel as we knew it is never fully coming back. And what I mean by that is I think the bar to get on a plane to go for a meeting is now higher and fewer people are going to do it. I mean, in another era, I would have been to a physical studio for this interview. So I just think we now realize there's a lot more we can do remotely. That being said, there will be a new type of business travel that I think will emerge, and it could be very significant. I'll give you an example. A lot of companies in San Francisco, look, we have an office in San Francisco, we have a bunch of employees that are now working remotely. They don't work in San Francisco. They're working somewhere else in the country. If they aren't coming back to the office, occasionally, maybe a couple times a year, they're going to want to come to San Francisco. And they come to San Francisco, they're going to want to stay for more than a night or two. So you think you're going to have this huge hub and spoke where people are going to be more selective about the trips they make for business. When they do make trips, they're going to make them longer. And so that would be what I think a version of a new type of business travel could be. I think it might be longer stays. And I think longer stays would benefit Airbnb, obviously, because the longer you're away from home, the more you want to be in a home. So that would be my argument.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's fascinating to see the search results and demand for things like yurts, tiny homes, houseboats, farm stays, all of these kinds of unique offerings. Do you feel like they will be, attractive to all demographics? Are we talking about 60-year-olds who will be willing to have, a month there? Or are you focused on sort of the elder millennial generation that seems to be a lot more open and in tune with these sorts of experiences?
Oh, no. I mean, honestly, Airbnb is very popular among retirees. I think our brand is associated with young people. That's a brand association. But, Airbnb started with young people traveling, and then they told their parents. And then they told their grandparents. And we're actually really, really popular with retirees right now. And I think they're probably booking these unique properties as much as anyone. We have millions of properties in Airbnb, but we have about 160,000 plus unique properties as defined by a treehouse, a boat, a yurt, a farm stay, an Airstream. You're seeing Airstreams on the screen. These are really unique homes where the home becomes the destination. In a world where you're more flexible, where you travel, people aren't just coming to Airbnb and typing, New York City or Chicago. They're saying, I'll go anywhere. And sometimes they'll go to New York, Chicago. Sometimes they'll say, I'll just go to this really cool private island. Where is this? And so I think it's totally changing the paradigm of travel.
And, Brian, we've been chatting since you've gone public back in December. I'm curious, one of the questions now is making sure that Airbnb can still be an affordable option, right? And I'm not talking about just for groups of 15 people or more. How do you really stay competitive with hotels at this point? I know Adam mentioned that some hotel prices are quite high, but some are doing massive giveaways, right, to try to compete with you. I'm curious how your outlook is there.
Well, I'd say two things. Number one, I think that when I think about, Airbnb started as an affordable alternative to a hotel. A lot of reasons people used Airbnb is they couldn't afford a hotel in the first place. And I think one of the things people learn when they stay in Airbnb is for the price of a hotel room, you often get an entire home with a kitchen, sometimes a backyard with a barbecue, a pool, and you can obviously pull a lot of money together. You get to stay in a real neighborhood. And so I think there's a lot of benefits of Airbnb. I think the value is just frankly unparalleled. That's number one. Number two, our search ranking algorithm takes value into account. So if a host is providing a really good deal, we will bump them up in search results. And there's, 5.7 million active listings. So there are going to be a range of deals on Airbnb. And so the host providing the best deal will get the best deal. The last thing I'll say is, there might be promotions here or there. I'm really looking at what provides the long-term sustainably best value. And I think it's going to be really hard to compete with a host who, doesn't do this full time. This is the asset they already have. It's unused space. And this is supplemental income. And they're providing a really good experience because they're putting their heart into it. That's going to be, that's a pretty compelling offering. I think that explains why we've had hundreds of millions of people use it.
All right. Brian Chesky, Airbnb co-founder and CEO, Melody Hahm, both of you, thank you.